Yo, Philly landlords, welcome to the inaugural episode of Landlords Connect, Philadelphia edition. I'm Cheryl Sitman, and I'm going to be your host for this podcast. If you're a housing provider in Philadelphia, in the region of Philadelphia, Bucks County, Montgomery County, Delco, Southern New Jersey, anywhere in the region, or you're just thinking about getting into the region, you are in the right place. This is where you're going to learn about everything to do with being a landlord in this region in particular. In this episode, I'm gonna talk about how I ended up here and why I think we need a podcast in particular about the Philadelphia area. I'm gonna talk about what to expect in upcoming episodes, and I'm gonna give you my favorite, a tip for my favorite painful landlord issue, maintenance in the city of brotherly love. So without further ado, let's get started. So let me take you a bit back in history to, a painful time not that long ago that I'm sure everybody would like to forget, but does remember, the COVID outbreak in the United States. This was about spring 2020. And I know it was a time that was excruciatingly painful for basically the entire world. I'm only going to speak about how it affected landlords and what happened in the Philadelphia region and how that brought me to this point of starting this podcast. So in Philadelphia and across the country, we were faced with a eviction moratorium. This meant that evictions were not going to be done during a period of time that when it was announced, nobody knew how long this was going to be for. I think initially it was announced for a few months and it kept getting extended. It was different from region to region. And I think it's fair to say it was probably the most stressful and difficult time for being a landlord in the United States in all history. I don't go back that far in terms of my own landlording history, but this was a unique situation. If you think about it, basically, it was like someone came to us and said, okay, you can keep your business open, right? Some businesses actually had to close for a short period of time, but you can keep your businesses open. You can continue to provide housing to your tenants, of course. And you got to keep your business open 24/7. You got to keep doing things right, abide by the law, be responsive to your tenants, do your maintenance, pay your taxes, everything just as normal. Except there's one thing, that if your tenants don't pay, or if your tenants are not keeping up their end of the lease, you cannot evict them. And there's nothing you can do. But even if you don't get paid, you got to keep providing them with the same level of service and the same, abide by the same laws and regulations that you always have. Essentially, the government was putting the burden of the situation caused by COVID-19 and what that meant for people not being able to work and having different struggles because of the pandemic. The government was putting the burden on us small landlords. And I don't know about you, but I went into a panic and I felt very alone and very concerned that maybe things were never going to be the same again. I know that a lot of landlords had legitimate concerns about losing their properties because if they weren't getting rent for an extended period of time, they would have trouble paying their mortgages. And even if they didn't have mortgages or were still able to manage with their mortgages, if they had major maintenance issues, they would have nowhere to take that money from because they weren't able to collect rent. So this was definitely a unique point in time for housing providers. And I was looking to speak with other landlords and to find emotional support and to help each other, and naturally looked online for that, and then decided to initiate a group that was focused primarily on the moratorium and the issues surrounding COVID at that time back in 2020. So that was the start of a group that is still running today called Philadelphia Landlords Connect. I invite you to join the group. I really encourage you to join the group. A really strong group of people that help each other, and you can find it on Facebook. And it'll be in the show notes, and of course you can reach out to me if you can't find it, and I'll let you know how to join or send you an invite. I remember one conversation on the discussions being in the group being something like, does anyone think they'll have any rent come in for April? Or are tenants going to take this as a declaration of free rent? And this was a legitimate concern that we had, that something was shifting and that there would be, it almost, maybe some people were scared, there's going to be a government takeover of our properties. Of course, that didn't happen. It was unlikely to happen. But at the time, anything seemed possible because it just was, as you remember, the world was under a pandemic, and this was not normal times. So having a group of different kinds of people with different kinds of experiences really, really helped to get us through that, to learn and navigate through the systems. And once things started to, say, normalize, and that the situation became with time, different programs were developed, and the politicians were figuring things out, and everybody was figuring things out. And then we had the rental assistance programs. All of this was created in a very quick way. So these were not well planned out programs that were easy to navigate. And it became more important to have a group of landlords that connected and helped each other through this, because the information that was out there was sometimes confusing, sometimes hard to find. And we all came together in a kind of way that we each had pieces of the puzzle, and we were able to put together the puzzle together. And it was a pretty amazing experience, I think. Now, fast forward, and we're past the crisis of the pandemic, obviously, and the group has become more about the general challenges that landlords have, and specific challenges that landlords have in the city of Philadelphia and the surrounding suburbs. Anybody who's working in the city knows it's a complex place to be a housing provider. There are many, many regulations. There are a lot of hoops that you have to jump through in order to be able to provide housing, and a lot of ways that you can get tripped up as a landlord that aren't common knowledge, or you wouldn't know instinctually that this is something that you should do. The bed bug ordinance, lead testing, the different paperwork that you have to fill out for getting a rental license. These are things that I can tell you are very unique to Philadelphia, because I work in many markets, and there's a lot of things that are done differently in Philadelphia. Just cross over into Montgomery County, Bucks County, over to Delco or Lehigh Valley, that's a bit further away. In New Jersey, of course, it's a different state. The laws are very, very different from place to place. So that's why I wanted to do a podcast that's very specific to the region, so that we can go in depth into the different topics that and discuss how they relate specifically to Philadelphia and the area. So whether it's insurance or uh, um, property management or pest control, or obviously evictions and all of the legal issues that one has to manage in being a property owner, we're going to discuss in how it relates to the Philadelphia market. And we'll bring guests on that will be able to speak to how to handle those things and what's the right way to do things, tips, all kinds of things that are going to make you be a more successful landlord. So I'm really looking forward to being able to provide that. The things that, just some of the topics that we plan to have guests on include maintenance, materials, evictions and legal issues, again, insurance, tenant relations, neighborhoods. Philadelphia even has neighborhoods that have specific regulations per neighborhood. Property management. It's always been an issue where people are trying to find the right property manager that meets their expectations. Pest control. It's also always an issue. My house has mice, and the tenants leave food out, so who's responsible for that? All those kinds of little issues that really add up and make your life difficult as a landlord. Lead testing is a big issue in Philadelphia, and we're going to cover all of those topics. I said insurance already, and I'm actually down in Florida, benefiting that I'm not in the extreme cold. It's pretty cold down here. I think today's in the 50s, but we reached down into the 30s the other day. But I'm not down here to actually, I just lucked out that I'm avoiding the cold. I'm down here because I had a couple houses that went through the hurricane. And so I'm dealing with insurance and contractors and figuring that all out. And even though I've been in this business for a while, this is brand new to me. Adjusters and getting payment from the insurance companies and the different kinds of payments and how to manage all of that is very, very new. And I think it's really important to cover that topic and to know about these things before those things happen. The more properties you have, the more likely it is that things are going to happen. So you want to be prepared in advance. I wish somebody had told me last year that I really need, even though I'm just renewing my policy, I really need to review it every year. I just learned the hard way that I missed out on something because I didn't, I just signed my policy that I've had for 8 years or so, just signed it again rather than looking it over and reviewing it with the agent. There's a lot of things. Owning property and being a landlord is a big responsibility. It is a business and you need to take it seriously. So I hope that in the podcast and in the group and other things that we do, we'll be able to help you be a more successful, more professional landlord and improve your bottom line. Also, I invite you that if you have any particular knowledge or products or experience or stories or whatever, things that you want to share that you think the audience might be interested in, please reach out to me and let's talk about whether it would be interesting for an episode. So I think that at the end of the day, what I'm telling you is that this podcast is going to be one of the best resources that you will find for information on owning rental property in the region. It's going to help you improve your landlording skills and your bottom line. And I'm looking forward to providing that to you and to getting your feedback. We'll have notes, we'll have things in the show notes, links to the Facebook group, and you'll be able to like us, subscribe to us, share it with your friends. Please spread the word as we get started in this venture. So what did I want to tell you about maintenance? Maintenance is, I think, probably the biggest issue for property management, I mean, for landlords. And in the Philadelphia region in particular, it seems to be a bigger challenge. And that's for a few reasons. First of all, we have an older housing stock. So inevitably, as houses age, there are more and more maintenance issues that you have to deal with and take care of. And secondly, we have a dearth of tradesmen and of contractors, and there's just not enough people out there that are skilled for us to hire. There also, unfortunately, tends to be a crisis in honesty among contractors in the region. And I hear from even the most savvy and experienced owners that they inevitably run into situations where they're taken advantage of, or kind of a victim of poor workmanship, or that someone takes off with their money and things like that. And so what I wanted to suggest, and my main tip, is that you put a major effort into developing good relationships with some key contractors and vendors. You need a good handyman, you need a good electrician, reliable plumber, a go-to for HVAC. Possibly you want to have a roofer on hand, and you want people who respect you and you respect them, and that you develop a relationship with. And what do I really mean by that? So, for example, you start hiring somebody and you see that they do good work. You want to make sure that you're one of their preferred customers. And you do that by paying them on time, paying them quickly, and showing them appreciation and respect. And quickly, you'll become one of their priority customers, because every contractor, just like you're faced with fear of being taken advantage of, the contractors are also dealing with that concern, because they're getting taken advantage of on occasion by investors or homeowners who don't pay and or make excuses for not paying. So it's a similar situation on both sides. And so when you do find somebody that you see does good work and that is trustworthy, you want to make that effort to make sure that you're going to be on their priority list, and that they'll continue to want to serve you quickly and to give you fair pricing. So work on those relationships. It's really important. It might cost you some money and some effort, but it's going to make a big difference in your ability to keep your houses in good shape and to maintain or manage your bottom line and your expenses and maintenance. When you have that relationship, you also can be more comfortable or more self-assured that you're going to be getting good pricing and fair pricing. But it's also your responsibility to know what is the pricing of things. Our group is a good way, in Philadelphia Landlords Connect, to check on pricing and make sure that you're within a reasonable range of pricing. Another way of another suggestion I have with that and working with contractors is to try to understand as much as you can from your tenants what the problem is. Often you might be able to actually resolve the problem on the phone with them. Tenants don't usually know a lot about maintenance issues, from electricity and plumbing, and there are occasional things that they could just flip a switch or do something very easy, and you'll save yourself money. It'll be better for the tenant, who doesn't have to be at home for someone to come, et cetera, et cetera. But if there is a problem that can't be resolved over the phone by you, getting information, getting some pictures, getting an explanation from the tenant, and giving that to a contractor or vendor that you work with regularly, that also might save you a trip and save you money because, for example, maybe a electrician can walk a client through, a tenant through flipping a breaker on safely instead of charging you for a trip to go out there. Just one small example, but there are plenty of times where something can be resolved over the phone and doesn't require a trip that could cost you a few $100s. So that's the first episode. Be sure to like us, share us, tell your friends about us, and subscribe. I'm really, really excited about this new project that is launching now, and I'm going to be back soon with some deep dives into some very interesting topics for all you landlords out there, Philadelphia related, landlord related, the Philadelphia region, anything and everything you can think of that's about this business we're going to try to touch on. So please feel free to reach out and make suggestions. Thanks for joining. It's going to get better and better. And if you keep at this, just remember, it's not a straight path forward. There's a lot of bumps in the road, but you got this and you're going to do fine. Thanks for joining me. Take care.